The Biden administration may be rethinking lifting Title 42, the health order used to deport migrants during the pandemic. This as the Justice Department announcing it may appeal a federal judge's decision to reverse the federal transportation mask mandate. So what's all happening there? We're going to get the latest from congressional correspondent Kilmeny Ducart live at the Capitol. Kilmeny.
Sean, good to be with you. A seventh bus arrived in the nation's capital this morning as part of Texas Governor Greg Abbott's initiative to send a message to the Biden administration in the wake of its decision to end Title 42. These buses have been full of migrants from Venezuela, Colombia, and Cuba, all taking Abbott up on his offer for a free ride from Texas to Washington, D.C. in an effort to get closer to their final destination of New York and Miami. But President Biden is reportedly discussing with members of his inner circle delaying Title 42 until there's a more comprehensive plan in place to deal with the predicted migrant surge. But all along, Republicans have been crying foul that the Biden administration has effectively declared the pandemic over at the border, but not when it comes to masking up on planes and trains. Republican Senator Marco Rubio from Florida tweeted this: "The people who are angry that Americans don't have to wear a mask on a plane anymore are the same ones who want to end Title 42 COVID rule for illegal immigrants." But now the Justice Department is planning to appeal the federal judge's decision blocking the extension of that mandate if, in fact, the CDC deems that it is still necessary on airplanes. But very little clarity from the president himself on this. Take a listen.
People continue to wear masks on planes?
That's up to them.
Would you like to appeal the ruling or the ruling that the judge made striking down the mandate?
I haven't spoken to the CDC yet. So thank you.
Well, the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says that they will continue to wait for the CDC's assessment here before it takes the next steps in terms of the federal transportation mask mandate. But it says that it continues to base these decisions on science, not on the polls.
All right, Kilmeny Ducart there live at the Capitol with the latest. Kilmeny, thank you very much. Joining us now is former Majority Leader of the California State Senate, Gloria Romero. Gloria, good to see you, and thank you so much for coming on here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Such a relevant topic here that I wanted to get to because I believe you wrote an op-ed, and in your latest op-ed, you write, quote, "There's nothing Democrats can do to stop Latinos from abandoning Biden in droves. When he and his party chose socialism and wokeism over the American dream, they lost us." Can you elaborate on your op-ed?
Absolutely. And let me emphasize, I'm a Democrat. I represented one of the most Democratic Latino districts in California, East LA. But over the years, we've seen a decline in support by Latinos across the board, whether we be Cuban American, Salvadoran, Mexican American. We as Latinos have really chosen to move away from a party that has moved away from us. And whether it's regressive policies on the economy and taxation, the Green New Deal that really hurts low-income Latino communities, the abandonment of charter schools and school choice in education, this whole wokeism has really turned off Latinos, and we see it in polling, and it's not going to turn around. We have options, and we know now that we don't just have to have a D after our names. We can look elsewhere, and we are in droves.
And to back up your opinion piece and what you cited there, polling, the latest Quinnipiac polling showing this, President Biden seeing only 26% approval among Hispanic voters. The majority, 54%, disapprove of President Biden and his job handling, his approval rating, rather. Again, that is Quinnipiac. And then I would go so far as to ask you about this and what we're seeing at the border. This administration clearly allowing more than 1 million migrants come across this border. There is this what Republicans call an open borders policy. That wouldn't be in favor of the Latino vote to allow those who want to come over from Latin countries or any countries, obviously, but through even the Mexican border as well. That wouldn't go in favor of supporting this administration.
I think this open border approach has really backfired on the Democratic Party. There was an assumption, a false assumption, that Latinos would just simply say, okay, open the borders and enter. But what they don't know or they don't comprehend is that there has to be resettlement. And it's really no surprise that some of the strongest reaction has come from South Texas with respect to pushing back on the open border and the resettlement costs. Of course, we want a fair and comprehensive immigration policy, but simply opening up the border is not going to go well, is not settling well with the Latino community that overall is very patriotic, highly values citizenship. And if you take a look at the ranks of the border officials, almost half are a minority, especially Latino. So this whole defunding the police, abolish ICE, simply open the borders, this is not a policy that bodes well for the Latino community. And increasingly across the country, we are seeing a pushback starting in South Texas, a very Democratic Latino stronghold, to say, ya basta, enough. It's not the way to earn the Latino vote.
And there it is from a Democrat, as you announced there, Gloria Romero. Gloria, thank you so much for having this open conversation and really for joining us here on National Report. We appreciate that, Gloria.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And for more on the upcoming midterms and President Biden's decline in those polls, as we showed, you can actually check out Newsmax Platinum Stories. If you find it on Newsmax.com, you're going to find an article like the one on your screen and also a whole lot more.
Let's bring in our panelists now. For their reaction, we're joined by President of Stampede America, Holly Turner. Also with us, trial attorney Vic Bajaj, alongside Trump's former Deputy National Security Advisor, Victoria Coates. Great number of panelists here. Let's dive into it, Holly. What Sean was just pointing out, of course, there is a former Democratic lawmaker who's coming on and criticizing the Biden administration's, a Democratic administration's, approach to the southern border. What was your takeaway from that?
Yeah, it's so interesting. And what Democrats are really missing when you dive into these polling numbers and really look at the demographics, it's not age, it's not education level, it's not even ethnicity of the Democrats that are leaving the Democrat Party, it's their parents. They are tired of the stuff that's being taught in schools. They are afraid for their children's safety. They're worried about the economy. They're having a tough time putting food on the table and putting gas in the car. They're worried about people who are coming over the border that have a bad agenda, that are bringing drugs. So these are parents, and that is what the Democrat Party is completely missing in this. The Republican Party has now become the party of parents, and that is going to lead to big victories for them in the fall.
Yeah, Victoria, I'll move to you on this because the battle over Title 42 comes to light. We know that it's set to end May 23rd, but Axios is now reporting that President Biden is having these considerations in delaying the repeal of Title 42. And we just talked to the former majority leader of the state there in California, talking about this very issue. She's a Democrat. And we've seen Democrats push back on the repeal of Title 42. Your thoughts on that and really the split in the party over this?
It's really ridiculous, Sean. I mean, this Title 42 is not immigration policy, it's health policy. And by just extending it further, the Biden administration is being as feckless and unstrategic as they are on so many other things. But what they're recognizing is this is politically toxic. CNN had a piece yesterday that 4 in 10 Americans name this as one of their top issues, and CNN said it's maybe a sneaky issue for the midterms. It's not sneaky. This is a crisis at the border, and the administration needs to take it seriously.
Vic, does the Democratic Party take the Hispanic vote for granted?
Absolutely. And this is in court, we have something called a fatal flaw. It cannot be cured. And that's exactly what's happened with the mantra of the Democratic Party. They're failing to realize that 34% of the new businesses, the small businesses in the United States in the past decade are Latino owned. And they're failing to understand that most small business growth has been with the Latin American constituency here in the United States. These are people who care about taxes. These are people who care about safety. So what's happened is the Biden administration has followed suit with previous generations of left-leaning politicians, and they've found that, hey, you know what? We think they may be intellectually compromised. We think they're all laborers. We think they're just going to do what we say. but the real effects of the fast-growing communities here in America are speaking back and changing colors, so to speak.
Well, wouldn't it be interesting just to go out and talk to these folks who live in these border states, border communities as well? You might get a better sense of where people stand ahead of the midterms, but we'll just have to wait and see for those results to come in.